Am I the asshole for telling my wife to not let our daughter into our house? Some years ago, on a different throwaway, I asked for advice regarding my daughter on a different subreddit. Long story short, she has been a drug addict for years. In my previous post I asked for advice after I had kicked her out of the house for prostituting herself to a drug dealer to get him to give her drugs. We had worked out a deal where she would stay in the house, do some housework and stay away from the drugs. My wife and I live on the countryside, so I figured she would be isolated from the people who keep feeding her addiction, but apparently in this day and age I was wrong. All of this was preceded by years of therapy, rehab, and other sorts of measures to try to get her on the right track. This incident, however, was the last straw, and after I had kicked her out of the house we effectively disowned her, as hard as that was. We had had no contact to her for almost 3 years now, and just now, after Christmas, she comes knocking on our door. I was alone in the house, my wife was out shopping, and I was mortified. She looked horrible and I almost didn't recognize her at first sight. I was also surprised at how she could have possibly made it here, since she obviously doesn't own a car, and I had assumed she lived in socialized housing in the city or was homeless. Turns out she had taken a bus and walked all the way from the bus stop, some 12 kilometers from the house. She had a tent with her, stolen I assume, as well as brand new winter clothes. I could clearly see that she was still using. She asked to get in, but I firmly told her no. She tried to insist, but I shut the door after telling her to go away. She got desperate and started screaming, but after a while she went away. I have to admit that never in my life have I vomited from stress, but this was the first time. I so much wanted to let her stay, but rationally I knew there was no way I could let myself get fooled again and let her ruin our family for the 100th time. I had already let go once, and that was it. There were no second chances after that point. I told my wife about the incident. After the emotional reaction, she was adamant that we should try just once more and see what she had to say for herself. I firmly told her no. This resulted in an argument. You have no idea how tempting it sounds to just try and get our daughter back, but there is absolutely no way it'll happen again. So many years have gone down the drain, and I do not wish that burden upon our family anymore. We now know that she lives in a tent in the near our house. My wife left some food out for her, which I approved of, but I am considering calling the police soon to get her back where she lives. This cannot happen again. But I'm just wondering if I'm wrong and if this isn't just an emotional impulse.